Most homes do not lose their peace during the argument. They lose it in the 15 minutes afterward, when nobody knows what to do next. The sharp words have ended, but the strife has not. One person disappears into another room. The other remains behind, repeating the accusation inwardly, improving the answer they wish they had given. A cupboard closes harder than necessary. Footsteps become messages. Silence becomes punishment. Even the children sense that something has changed, though no one explains it. The entire house begins carrying the weight of one uncontrolled moment. Hear this clearly. The first disagreement is not always what establishes the atmosphere. It is what you continue feeding after the disagreement. A wound may be opened in seconds, but then pride rehearses it. Fear enlarges it. The mouth gives it new language. The mind gathers old evidence. What began as one painful exchange becomes an invisible guest at the table, in the hallway, and behind every closed door. But it does not have to remain. Needing a way to recover does not mean your family has no faith. It does not mean your marriage has failed. It does not mean love has disappeared. It means you need a practiced response for the moment, when emotion is louder than wisdom. Composure under pressure is not produced by good intentions alone. It is trained through repeated obedience until peace becomes the response you reach for first. In this teaching, I will give you 5 movements for those decisive 15 minutes. First, stop the escalation. Second, examine your own responsibility. Third, restore truthful speech. Fourth, pray without blaming. Fifth, make one concrete repair. You stop, you examine, you speak truth, you pray, you repair. Not a cold checklist, a path home. And understand the boundary of this teaching. If there are threats, coercion, or violence, your first responsibility is safety and appropriate outside help. This sequence is for the ordinary conflicts in which 2 people can step back, become calm, and begin repairing what their reactions have damaged. One argument does not have to define your home. One eruption does not have to govern the evening. Strife may enter, but you do not have to give it a chair, a voice, and permission to remain. Before we begin the clock, however, we must replace one damaging assumption. Peace does not mean your home never experiences conflict. Peace is revealed by what governs you when conflict comes. Most believers carry an impossible picture of a peaceful Christian home. In that picture, no one becomes irritated. No one misunderstands a sentence. No one speaks from exhaustion. No accusation enters the room, and no emotion rises beyond a gentle whisper. Then, real life happens. Pressure comes. A tone is misread. A promise is forgotten. Someone feels dismissed, and someone else feels unfairly judged. Because the family assumed peace meant the absence of conflict, the appearance of conflict feels like proof that peace has already failed. But hear this. Peace is not proved by the absence of pressure. Peace is proved by what governs you under pressure. Peace does not require the issue to vanish before you can act responsibly. It brings order to you while the issue is still present. The question may remain unanswered. The hurt may still need attention. The decision may still require a serious conversation. Yet your heart does not have to become a servant of the urgency surrounding it. Panic says, answer now. Panic must prove innocence, expose the other person, recruit someone to its side, or force an immediate conclusion. Panic reacts blindly because it believes delay means defeat. Peace responds differently. Peace can listen without surrendering truth. Peace can pause without abandoning the relationship. Peace can discern what belongs to this moment and what must wait until both people are able to speak clearly. Action born from peace carries wisdom. Action driven by panic usually creates another wound that must later be repaired. The life of God within you has not disappeared because anger appeared. You have not become empty because you felt wounded. You have not lost your identity because your emotions became unstable. But what you have received inwardly must be permitted to govern what you release outwardly. Your mouth, your tone, your posture, your next decision. That is where peace becomes visible. Restraint is not weakness. It is not denial. It is not pretending the offense did not matter. Restraint is the refusal to place a temporary emotion on the throne of the household. You may still speak. You may still confront. You may still establish a boundary. But you do it from a governed heart, not from the demand to injure because you were injured. Those first 15 minutes are not a courtroom in which you must determine who won. They are a doorway. Through that doorway, you will carry either strife or peace into the next hour. Conflict may enter your home. It does not have to rule it. Now that peace has been defined as governed action, we must identify the reactions that feel natural in the moment, but quietly return authority to strife. Strife rarely survives on the original sentence alone. It survives because the heart keeps serving it after the room has gone quiet. The first fuel is replay. You repeat the most offensive words in your mind. You hear the tone again. You imagine what the speaker must have meant. Each repetition gives the moment fresh emotional force until the memory feels larger than the event itself. The argument ended, but inwardly you are still conducting it. The second fuel is prosecution. You stop addressing what happened today and begin gathering evidence from last month, last year, and every disappointment in between. You assign motives. You connect unrelated failures. You build a case strong enough to prove that the other person is not merely wrong about one matter, but wrong in character. The third fuel is recruitment. You draw the children into the tension. You call a relative. You send a private message to someone who already understands your side. You are not seeking wisdom. You are seeking a witness. And every sympathetic response makes your one-sided certainty feel more righteous. The fourth fuel is punishment. You slam what could have been set down gently. You withhold ordinary kindness. You turn silence into a weapon. You make the whole household feel your displeasure without saying another word. That is not restraint. It is accusation without speech. Then comes the fifth fuel, spiritual disguise. You rebuke the atmosphere while refusing to examine your attitude. You quote truth at the other person as though scripture were a blade. You pray loudly enough to be heard, presenting your case to God while protecting your own harshness from correction. Hear this carefully. Spiritual language cannot make an unrepentant reaction holy. One prayer for peace cannot govern the home if the next dozen sentences keep describing the other person as the enemy. Repeated speech trains the atmosphere. Repeated contempt trains it. Repeated suspicion trains it. What you continually release after the argument either closes the wound or keeps touching it until it cannot heal. Do not receive this as condemnation. Receive it as recognition. You cannot interrupt a pattern you refuse to name. Perhaps your reflex is replay. Perhaps it is prosecution, recruitment, punishment, or spiritual disguise. Name it honestly. Not to shame yourself, but to remove its secrecy. The problem is no longer invisible. It is no longer merely something in the atmosphere. You can now see the reaction that has been feeding it. And recognition must become action immediately. The reset begins in the first 2 minutes, with the discipline that makes every later step possible. The clock begins at the moment the conversation stops being useful. You hear the tone sharpen. The same accusation comes around again. One person interrupts, the other raises their voice, and both are no longer trying to understand. They are trying to win. That is your signal. Stop speaking. Not forever, not to punish, not to make the other person chase you. Stop long enough to prevent the next sentence from becoming another injury. Most people continue because they believe silence will make them look guilty, weak, or defeated. So they answer the accusation, then answer the answer, then defend the defense. But the mouth cannot restore order while it is still obeying emotional momentum. Put a boundary around it. Say calmly, "This matters to me, and I want to return to it. But the way we are speaking is hurting us. I need a few minutes to become calm so I can speak truthfully." That sentence does 3 things. It honors the issue, it names the present danger, and it promises return. Then bring your body under the same discipline as your mouth. Lower your voice, unclench your hands, release the hard stare. Do not follow the other person from room to room demanding an answer. Do not slam the door, strike the counter, or turn every movement into a wordless threat. Your body is speaking even when your mouth is silent. Let both become still. And hear this carefully. Do not use the pause to prepare a more devastating argument. Do not stand in another room collecting old evidence and composing the sentence that will finally silence them. That is not composure. That is hostility becoming organized. The purpose of the pause is not to become strategically superior. It is to become governable. Say inwardly, "I do not have to obey anger. I do not have to obey fear. I do not have to obey humiliation. I do not have to answer this instant. The life of God within me can govern my next word. Your emotions may still be moving. Your heartbeat may still be elevated. The accusation may still feel unfair. Peace does not require every feeling to disappear before obedience begins. You can choose restraint while the feelings are still settling. Temporary silence must carry the intention to return. Otherwise, a pause becomes abandonment. Give the other person a clear assurance. I am not leaving this unresolved. I am taking a few minutes so I do not make it worse. The first victory is not agreement. It is not vindication. It is not solving the whole conflict in 2 minutes. The first victory is preventing fresh injury. Now the household has breathing room. The fire has stopped receiving fuel. And once the mouth has stopped multiplying the wound, your next task is not to inspect the other person more closely. It is to stand honestly before God. Minutes 2 through 5 are not for building your defense. They are for becoming honest in the presence of the Father. Most believers approach self-examination as though they were entering a courtroom where every failure must be used against them. But you are not trying to earn permission to return to God. The way is already open. You come as His child, not to hide, not to perform, but to let truth bring order to your heart. Ask the first question plainly. What did I actually say or do? Do not begin with what the other person said first. Do not add the provocation. Look at your own words, your own tone, your own actions. Did you interrupt? Exaggerate. Mock. Threaten. Withdraw to punish. Truth becomes useful when it becomes specific. Then ask the second question. What was I trying to protect or obtain through that reaction? Perhaps you wanted control. Perhaps you needed vindication. Perhaps you were trying to escape discomfort, establish superiority, or force reassurance from someone who was not giving it quickly enough. The outward reaction often reveals an inward demand. Name it. Now ask the third question. What requires repentance, and what remains a legitimate concern? This distinction matters. Owning your harsh tone does not mean every accusation against you was true. Acknowledging that you caused hurt does not mean your own hurt was imaginary. Responsibility is not total blame. You can repent for how you spoke and still return later to what needs to be addressed. Do not spiritualize the whole event as an attack while leaving your contempt unexamined. Do not rebuke strife in the room while protecting exaggeration in your mouth. Spiritual authority does not remove personal responsibility. It makes obedience possible. And do not confuse conviction with condemnation. Condemnation says, you failed, so hide, defend yourself, or strike back. Conviction says, this act was wrong, bring it into the light, and repair it. Condemnation turns a moment into an identity. Conviction identifies a doorway home. Form one sentence you can later speak without excuses. I raised my voice and spoke to you disrespectfully. That was wrong. Or, I withdrew to punish you instead of asking for time to calm down. That was wrong. No but, no countercharge, no reference to what they did first. Hear this. One failed moment has not erased the life of God within you. You are not disqualified. You are not beyond fellowship. But the life you have received now calls you to respond truthfully. At the end of these minutes, carry two clear things. One responsibility you must own, and one legitimate concern you must discuss calmly. Personal responsibility clears the heart, but peace cannot return through private insight alone. The mouth that wounded must now be retrained to speak truthfully. Minutes 5 through 8 belong to the mouth. The same mouth that helped open the breach must now begin rebuilding trust. Words do not become neutral when the shouting stops. They continue in one of two directions. They either maintain the wound or they begin to close it. Start by removing the language that turns one event into a permanent identity. You always do this. You never listen. Everything has to be about you. Those statements do not describe a moment. They pronounce a sentence over a person. Speak specifically. Say, when I was interrupted twice, I felt dismissed. Or, when the decision was made without speaking to me, I felt excluded. You are naming what happened and how it affected you. You are not claiming to know every motive hidden in the other person's heart. But ownership comes first. Before explaining your concern, return with the sentence you formed in the presence of God. I raised my voice and spoke disrespectfully. That was wrong. I am sorry. Then stop. Do not add, but you made me angry. Do not say, I am sorry you were offended. Do not turn an apology into a doorway through which another accusation enters. An apology with a hidden countercharge is not repair. It is prosecution wearing softer clothing. After ownership, state the unresolved issue calmly. I still need us to discuss what happened because it matters to me, but I want to discuss it without attacking you. That is truthful speech, not silence pretending nothing happened, not anger unloading everything it feels. Truth does not require you to release every interpretation passing through your mind. Some thoughts are pain speaking, some are fear guessing, some are old memories trying to take control of the present. Honesty means saying what is true, not saying everything you can possibly say. Then protect the other person's dignity. Tell them, in your own words, this disagreement is serious, but it is not larger than our relationship. I will not reduce you to this moment. Hear this. Dignity changes the room. It tells the other person that the issue may be confronted without their identity being destroyed. If they are not ready to answer, do not demand immediate forgiveness, reassurance, or agreement. You are responsible for the truthfulness of your posture, not for controlling the speed of their response. Leave the door open without pushing them through it. Before any sentence leaves your mouth, test it with 4 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it responsible? Is it directed toward repair? True, necessary, responsible, repairing. Now the conflict is no longer an attack on identity. It has become a specific problem that 2 people of value can discuss. Truthful speech has prepared the room for prayer, but prayer must now be rescued from the temptation to use God as another witness for the prosecution. Minutes 8 through 11 belong to prayer, but prayer must not become another form of accusation. It is possible to stop arguing with a person and continue arguing with them through God. You rehearse their failures before the Father. You ask Him to show them how wrong they are. You pray loudly enough for the other person to hear, turning sacred language into a sermon aimed across the room. That is not fellowship. It is prosecution with religious vocabulary. You may rebuke strife, but if you protect pride, contempt, or manipulation, the breach remains open. Spiritual words cannot do the work of repentance. Prayer does not excuse repair. It prepares you for it. So begin from your standing, not from panic. The Father has not withdrawn because your emotions became unstable. You do not need a perfect phrase or a theatrical tone. You come because access has already been given, and you come honestly. Let the prayer move in 4 directions. First, give thanks. Father, I thank you that truth is still available to me. I thank you that I can come near without hiding. I thank you that this conflict has not placed me beyond your wisdom. Second, confess your own wrong. I spoke harshly. I tried to control the conversation. I used silence to punish. I acknowledge this without excuse. Third, ask for wisdom and restraint. Govern my heart. Train my mouth. Show me what must be said, what must remain silent, and what act of obedience belongs to this moment. Fourth, intercede for the other person without assigning motives. Give them peace. Give them clarity. Heal what my words wounded. Help us both return to truth. Then become quiet. Do not rush to fill every second. Silence before the Father is not emptiness. It is availability. In that quiet, you may remember a fact you ignored. You may recognize an exaggeration. You may sense that the next obedient act is an apology, a softened tone, or simply more time. If praying together would increase pressure or defensiveness, pray privately. Do not force a shared spiritual moment to prove that the conflict is resolved. And when both people are willing to pray together, keep it brief. Speak to God, not about each other. No coded accusations. No public correction disguised as intercession. End with readiness. Father, I will obey what you show me. Fellowship does not remove responsibility. It restores order to it. You leave prayer less frantic, less accusatory, and more available for truth. But the inward reset is not complete until it becomes visible. The final minutes must now produce one small repair the other person can actually experience. Minutes 11 through 15 belong to repair. Not merely an inward intention, not a spiritual feeling, something visible, something the other person can experience. Repair should correspond to the harm. If you broke something, replace it. If you misstated a fact, correct it. If you made a threat, withdraw it clearly. If you withheld an ordinary kindness to punish, restore that kindness without demanding praise. If your words created fear, offer calm assurance. You cannot use kindness toward God to avoid kindness toward the person you wounded. A longer prayer is not a substitute for a sincere apology. Religious activity cannot repair what responsible action refuses to touch. Use this simple pattern. Acknowledge the act. I raised my voice. Name its effect. That made this conversation feel unsafe and disrespectful. Apologize plainly. I was wrong, and I am sorry. State what will change. When we return to this, I will listen without interrupting, and I will keep my voice calm. That is repair, clear, specific, responsible. But do not confuse the first repair with final resolution. You may apologize now, even though the larger decision will take another hour. You may restore dignity now, even though trust needs more time. You may stop the injury now, even though the disagreement remains. Offer one practical sign of goodwill. Bring a glass of water. Finish the responsibility you abandoned in anger. Soften your tone. Ask, is there something simple you need before we talk again? These are not payments that purchase forgiveness. They are visible signs that you are no longer cooperating with hostility. Do not use affection to force premature closure. A hug cannot be demanded. Reassurance cannot be extracted. Repair offers goodwill. It does not control the response. And keep the promise you made during the pause. Name when you will return. Let us talk again after dinner. Or, I need an hour, but I will come back at 7. A pause without follow-through becomes avoidance, and avoidance teaches the other person not to trust your request for space. If your repair is rejected, do not retaliate. Do not bargain. Do not multiply apologies until remorse becomes another way of controlling them. You can offer responsible obedience without governing how quickly it is received. Now hear the entire sequence again. First, stop the escalation. Second, examine your responsibility. Third, restore truthful speech. Fourth, pray without blaming. Fifth, make one concrete repair. You stop, you examine, you speak truth, you pray, you repair. The first 15 minutes may not solve everything, but they can prevent more damage, restore dignity, and build a bridge toward the next conversation. Yet a faithful repair may not produce immediate agreement, so we must now learn how peace behaves when the other person remains angry, distant, or unwilling. Sometimes you will stop, examine, speak truth, pray, and offer repair, and the other person will not meet you there. They may continue accusing, they may withdraw, they may reject the apology, question your sincerity, or demand that the argument continue on their terms. That can be painful, especially when you hoped obedience would produce immediate reconciliation. But hear this: obedience is not control. You can govern your own mouth. You can own your own conduct. You can offer a sincere repair. You cannot manufacture another person's readiness. Their response does not determine whether your obedience was real. Set a calm boundary. I want to resolve this, but I will not continue while we are insulting or intimidating each other. I am willing to return when we can speak respectfully. That is not retaliation. It is not abandonment. It is a boundary that protects the possibility of a truthful conversation. Peace is not appeasement. Restraint does not require you to deny facts, accept abuse, surrender wise limits, or remain in danger. You are not called to prove spiritual maturity by tolerating conduct that is threatening or coercive. When conflict becomes repetitive, intimidating, or beyond the household's present ability to repair, seek appropriate help. Wise counsel is not an admission that faith has failed. It may be the responsible form obedience takes. While you wait, guard your speech. Do not turn delay into gossip. Do not retell the event with contempt until everyone around you despises the person you claim to want restored. Do not rehearse. They will never change. This will always be our home. Those words do not preserve truth. They convert present pain into a permanent sentence. You may describe what happened honestly to someone able to offer wise help, but seeking help is different from recruiting an audience. One pursues clarity and safety, the other pursues vindication. Delayed reconciliation becomes a test of maintained character. Can you keep the same settled tone tomorrow? Can you remain courteous without pretending the issue disappeared? Can you hold a boundary without hatred? Can you continue speaking from truth after the emotional intensity has faded? That is mature peace, not controlling, not passive, not dependent on another person's immediate agreement. One faithful reset can protect an evening, but repeated resets can do something larger. They can retrain the instincts and expectations of an entire household. Understanding the sequence is not the same as having the instinct to use it. You can agree with every word while the room is calm and still return to old reactions when pressure arrives. Information tells you what peace should do. Practice trains you to do it before anger has time to take command. That training happens through repetition. The first time you request a pause, it may feel awkward. The first apology may sound slower than you wish. The first attempt at prayer may still contain traces of self-defense. Do not despise the early practice. Continue. Each faithful reset teaches the household a new way to move through tension. Over time, the pause comes sooner. Accusations become specific concerns instead of attacks on character. Apologies lose their qualifications. Prayer becomes quieter and more honest. Repair begins before coldness has occupied the house for hours. The conflict may not disappear, but recovery becomes less frightening because everyone knows there is a path back. Children and other members of the household learn from this pattern. They see that anger does not have to become intimidation. They see that wrongdoing can be admitted without shame, destroying the person who admits it. They see that difficult truth and enduring love can remain in the same room. Practice the 5 labels when the home is calm. Stop, examine, speak truth, pray, repair. Let everyone understand that a pause is not abandonment. It is protection. It means, this relationship matters too much for me to keep speaking carelessly. After the conflict has settled, hold a brief aftercare conversation. Ask 3 questions. What caused the exchange to escalate? Which part of the reset helped us most? What practical change should we carry into the next difficult moment? Keep it simple. Perhaps the adjustment is not discussing serious matters while exhausted. Perhaps it is asking one clarifying question before assuming a motive. Perhaps it is agreeing on a phrase that signals the need for a pause. Hear this. The goal is not one dramatic reconciliation. It is a dependable culture of repair. Consistency will accomplish what intensity cannot. Ordinary reset after ordinary reset. Your household learns what to expect under pressure. Restraint instead of panic. Responsibility instead of blame. Truth instead of contempt. Prayer instead of performance. And repair instead of prolonged coldness. Repeated repair does more than end arguments. It trains the atmosphere of the home. Now the complete sequence must move from teaching into commitment. It must become something you decide to practice today. Return once more to those silent minutes after the argument. The room is tense. The words are still echoing. No one knows whether to leave, speak, pray, or pretend nothing happened. But now your home can know what to do next. Stop the escalation. Examine your responsibility. Speak truth without attacking identity. Pray without blaming. Make one concrete repair. Stop, examine, speak truth, pray, repair. Perhaps you have failed in these moments many times. Perhaps anger has occupied entire evenings. Perhaps apologies have come days late, or not at all. Hear this. Your past inconsistency does not disqualify your next act of obedience. A culture of repair is not built by shame. It is built by return. Prepare before pressure comes. Choose one pause sentence. This matters, and I will return, but I need a few minutes to become calm. Choose one question. What did I say or do apart from what happened first? Choose one repair. A plain apology, a corrected statement, a restored kindness, or a promise kept. Then discuss the sequence while your home is peaceful. Agree that asking for a reset does not mean rejection. It means protection. It means the relationship matters too much to keep feeding strife. And make this declaration aloud today. Strife will not train the atmosphere of my home. Truth, restraint, prayer, and repair will. Not someday. Today. Practice in the ordinary irritations, the interrupted plans, the misunderstood tones, and the small disappointments. Let those moments train your mouth before a greater pressure arrives. You are not promising that conflict will never enter. You are deciding what will govern the house when it does. Stop, examine, speak truth, pray, repair. Do not surrender the evening to one painful exchange. Do not give strife another sentence, another room, or another hour. Guard the next 15 minutes.